Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome along to the very special edition of the Range Report. I'm Mike Westdorp, your host, and joining me, firstly, we'll welcome two-time Paralympian Chris Pitt. Welcome along from Quarantine Hotel.
Thanks, Mike, and thanks to everyone for watching.
And also joining us, Maartje Theunissen, who was the shooting operations manager for both the Olympics and the Paralympics over in Tokyo. Welcome along, Maartje. Also, three of us stuck in quarantine hotels in Sydney.
Thanks, Mike, and thanks, Chris, for having me here. It's amazing to be able to share some experiences with the community.
Yeah, it's fantastic. We thought it's a great opportunity. We can't do anything. Everyone else may be in some form of lockdown around the country, but we're definitely stuck here in the hotel. But firstly, Chris, let's go to you. Preparing for Tokyo 2020, when did you actually find out you were going? Because it was a bit of a stop-start for all athletes all over the planet.
Yeah, it was very late for me to find out. From memory, it was about the 10th or 12th of July. The team was announced on the 20th of July, so I had to wait basically till the last minute, and all the quotas and bipartites and everything was sorted with WSPS.
So how do you continue training? And obviously things shut down in 2020, the Olympics were delayed, no guarantee you're going, and then do you just try and keep training through that? And obviously you were waiting for that position to open up for you to go. You couldn't go to Lima for the final qualifying tournament. So that also made it a little bit nervous as to whether you're going to get a berth.
It was just a waiting game. I was quietly confident that I would get a bipartite. Maybe I was a bit too confident, but in the end, I was correct. But I just kept training as best I could. And that's what, anyone would do. I think you keep training as if you are going.
And Maartje, yourself there as operations manager at the shooting venue, you had a massive job with a huge team of people trying to coordinate them all together to work together to prepare a venue and make something or a venue that was great for the athletes to come into and perform at their best.
Yes, yeah, it was an interesting journey, especially because, of course, it was all organized for last year. The day that I would fly out to Tokyo was the day that they shut the borders. What was an interesting experience. I was lucky that I wasn't on the airplane yet. And then, of course, it was a waiting game. What would happen? Would it be postponed or not? And yeah, when it did got postponed, they were scrapping almost all international people from the games, organizing the games. So I wasn't sure what would happen. But yeah, they only made sure that the people that they really needed were still able to go. And I was one of them. So very lucky there. Very grateful for that opportunity.
Well, venue operations manager is a pretty important role. You have a connection here with the pistol community and the shooting community in Australia through some work with the QRA. So that kind of opens the door for you, and you did Commonwealth Games?
Yes, I did Commonwealth Games in the same role, sport operation manager. And yeah, so from that, I got the opportunity. Tokyo 2020 reached out to me to see if I was available for this job. What was great to hear, of course. And yeah, they saw my work ethic and wanted to get me on board, especially because there were like the whole team almost is Japanese, and they needed some international experience as well.
In a COVID pandemic crisis around the world, tell me how long it took you to say yes when they said, would you go?
It was an interesting one because leaving Australia wasn't that easy. Of course, we're here in a really safe environment compared to the rest of the world, but that wasn't even the thing. Like, the government needs to give you permission to leave the country. and also you're signing that you're not sure if you can get back into the country. So that was one of the challenges. And yes, it was an interesting journey to go through that. But for me, like, this opportunity is a one-off. There's only one person in the world that gets this opportunity. So of course I said yes.
Yeah, I got to say, for me too, offering the job of being a venue announcer, English announcer at the Olympics and Paralympics, it takes a heartbeat to say yes. You're definitely going to go. Regardless of what's happening around the planet, you're going to go. Chris, interesting journey into Tokyo. Obviously, vaccination before you go, COVID test 72 hours out from departure, and then quite a process at the airport in Tokyo with COVID tests and health checks and all sorts of things to get through before you actually get to the village.
Yeah, we had all the protocols to go through. The experience at the airport was much better than we'd planned. Because I had to have a PCR test and couldn't do the normal spit test, we were expecting to be waiting 3 hours at least, but they turned that result round in 1 hour, and we arrived at night time, so the airport was basically empty. And it was an easy and straight through, basically. We arrived at the village at, I think it was midnight. But that was the best case scenario that we come up with, and we did actually score it. So that was a bonus to start with.
You did really well, an hour to get through quarantine and health checks and COVID checks at the airport. Personally, myself was 3.5. Maartje, how long were you?
I arrived in June already, so start of June. So there weren't a lot of other people at that stage yet. I can't remember how long it took. I only remember that I had to go through 2 weeks of quarantine after, before released into the wild.
Yeah, 2 on the way in, 2 on the way out.
Yes.
But yeah, look, it was what Tokyo, what the organising committee did to manage COVID during the games. They did over 1 million COVID tests, and for the people watching who don't know that what we had to go through, it was daily for the athletes especially, and for myself it was like every 4 days in the beginning, and then every 3 or 4 days. And yourself, I'm sure, Maartje, with contact with the athletes, you were probably doing a PCR test every day, and that involved saliva into a little vial, and then you had to register that with your name and your date of birth and your accreditation number and the barcode number on the side of the vial, and that went off, and they tested you every single day throughout the game. So over 1 million tests done from the 1st of July till a couple of days ago, and they had 332 positive cases, so 0.03%. They did a fantastic job managing the COVID risk. And Chris, for athletes, especially Paralympic Games, it's got to be a concern.
It was. I know Paralympics Australia were very concerned. We had a few more restrictions compared to other countries. We weren't allowed to go to the dining hall. Basically, we're told to, assume everyone that we came in contact with had COVID. So we basically stayed within our group, within the village, within our camp. And it was a huge concern. But as you say, the Japanese people and the amount of testing and protocols, I think, made it much safer than what anyone could expect.
So, Chris, for yourself, second Paralympic Games compared to Rio, obviously that village interaction with other athletes and other sports and other countries just didn't happen. So it made for a very different village experience.
Yes, definitely. Very different. I know there was much more socialising. We had opening and closing ceremony, which to me is one of the most exciting and memorable parts of the games. So this one was much different, but we knew that's how it had to be. So it was accepted any games is still good, and yeah, they're all memorable, and yeah, it's different but still amazing at the same time.
So just a little housekeeping for everyone watching at home. There is a Q&A button at the bottom of your screen here, watching it on the Zoom webinar. So if you want to ask a question, we'll get to those a little bit later in the interviews. But going back to you, Maartje, pulling a team together of some international contractors and then a large Japanese team and so many different functional areas. I know the Olympics love an acronym, lots of functional areas, lots of people involved in putting an event on.
Yes, it was interesting to experience so many different people, a lot of Japanese people, especially volunteers. Almost all of them were Japanese. Interesting experience with that was as well well, of course, the culture is different. Their way of working is different. And well, a lot of them didn't speak English either. So you're just managing with hands and feet and trying to find some translators and hope that they translate the thing that you want to say. And that makes really interesting situations when things pop up that need to be done directly. Yes, it was a really interesting experience. Also trying to get people into the country, from like the athletes, the international federations, the technical officials. That was an interesting process because they needed to go through the government, and the government, yeah, well, they needed to approve every activity plan that we had to make sure that was like sent through on time. So that were a couple of really interesting challenges in the background that we had to deal with to make sure that everybody even got to venue to start with.
Yeah, everyone had an operations plan. We all had COVID liaison officers that we had to, if we had any issues or any COVID questions, concerns, we had someone as a go-to point. But I thought one of the things the Japanese government did well when they made that decision of no spectators at the Olympic Games, and then very late they made the same decision for the Paralympic Games, they didn't cut back on the volunteers, because that was really the only connection the Japanese people had to the games, to be there live if you're a volunteer. And we've got on screen now, I think this is your Olympic team, a huge number of people. And yeah, as you said, you've got to assign roles to many of them. And the Japanese people, they are kind and they are polite, but they like to be told specifics.
Yes, that's for sure. Their way of working is very theoretically, a lot of on paper, and when you give them tasks, it needs to be a specific task. So out of the box is very challenging for them. You will find the odd, of course, that is able to work that way, but yes, it's you know, like events, everything can happen every second, and you have to be ready to get in action then. And sometimes they just needed their processes to get through that. What was a challenge for them to accept that it's not always possible. During the games, that became better and better. The Olympics, of course, was a bigger challenge in that, but during the Paralympics, people started to understand what was possible and what not. So it became more smooth. And yeah, was good to see the cultures coming together, like everybody in their own ways. You have to find out what processes work for whom, and mix that, and in the end you all blend together, and there is a fantastic team that all know how to work together, and then it's finished. So then we go to the next one.
So Chris, the Paralympic Village, which was the Olympic Village in the earlier event, down on the harbour, did you have a room with a view? It was in a pretty nice location there on Tokyo Harbour.
Yeah, we weren't quite at the harbour. GB got that luxury of being, overlooking the harbour. But yeah, we were only probably maybe 100 metres at the most away from going down and looking at the harbour and whatnot. So, yeah, it was good.
And the process is transport. Obviously, it's really important as an athlete that you can just concentrate on doing what you're there to do. And you want the background stuff to flow for you. You want the buses to be on time. You want the meals to be on time. You want to just get a nice, easy journey to the venue. I think 45, 50 minutes, I think, from the venue, from the Paralympic Village, and then into the venue. Obviously, Maartje had everyone tuned up and they made the passage through easy for you.
Yeah, it ran very smoothly. We were 50 minutes approximately away from the range, and there was only one morning in the early days where there was a bit of confusion with the buses. 2 buses turned up, which was enough, but they weren't wheelchair accessible. So that was the only mishap with transport, and that was instantly fixed and never to be repeated. But buses were exactly on time. The helpers there were just amazing. There were so many of them, and they were so happy to be there and helping us. That's probably one of my best memories of Tokyo, is the volunteers, and their enthusiasm was just amazing.
And as it was with a lot of Australian athletes, because we've been cut off from the world for such a long period of time, coming into a games without a lot of international competition over the last 18 months, that's hard to get right back in the rhythm. That we spoke a couple of days ago about that kind of match fitness, that mental, physical match fitness that you get from going to international competitions. You just got to hit the ground running.
Yeah, that's a huge part of preparing for games is that momentum at World Cups, and you can't replicate World Cup competition. It doesn't matter what you try and do here in Australia, you can't replicate it. So that was a huge issue for all the Australian shooters, I think, missing out on that momentum leading into the games.
Yeah, but your competition overall, I know you said to me you would have liked to have finished a bit higher. You had some technical issues with your firearm, which you said you're not going to use as an excuse. But mate, you went out there, did the country proud, and you put absolutely your best into your competition.
Yeah, no matter when I shoot, I'm always trying to do the best I can, and that's what keeps me going back, because I always know I can do better. I was absolutely gutted with my sport pistol match. As you said, I had issues with my pistol, which resulted in, basically two shots that basically happened by themselves, that are somewhere in the timber work at the range. And after the first one, I knew I was out of it. But having said that, I was so happy to just get to the games. That was my goal after Rio, and to get there, with COVID and a few health issues, it was amazing to get there. But now I have to go for Paris to try and redeem myself, I think.
Well, that was going to be my next question. Do you commit to another 3-year cycle, a very short cycle, and have a crack at Paris? And clearly you're going to have a go at that, which is exciting news. Exciting news for the Pistol Australia community that Chris is going to go around again. Yeah, no,
it's some people probably think I'm getting a bit past it, but I can, if I can still shoot scores in training, that tells me that I can shoot them at competition, which is always a challenge. And when COVID first arrived on the scene, and everyone was basically confined to quarters and everything was cancelled, one thing I did realise that I basically need shooting. You know, there's times where I may not want to do it for a short time, but I learnt that I need it. So I've decided to go again. As I say, I think I know I'm capable of making finals at the World Cup level, and that will be my goal from here to Paris, and fingers crossed I'll get there. But yeah, definitely will keep shooting.
That's an interesting point you make. Like, when it's taken away from you, not by your choice, by ranges being shut down with COVID restrictions, does it make you fall back in love with the sport because you realise what you had and how important it is, and you just go, right, I'm back into it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, the old saying, you know, you don't know what you had until you've lost it. So yeah, it definitely opened my mind up to what shooting provides me, just within my life in general. And yeah, when I first started shooting back in 2010, I would never have dreamt in a million years that it would have given me what it has. And yeah, it's just amazing what I do get out of the sport, and I appreciate that. And yeah, we'll keep shooting until someone basically pushes me out of the range and tells me to go home.
Well, you're a very popular member of the Pistol Australia community, and we love that you're committed again to go for Paris. We've got a question, one here, Maartje. How did you guys manage your downtime? I know for Chris, an athlete, you had no period or no opportunity to leave the village. But Maartje, the time between the Olympics and Paralympics, you had a bit of a travel partner. You had a crack at Mount Fuji a couple of times there, didn't you?
Yes, Mount Fuji was on the planning straight after the games, but we actually kept going because we had to organize the Paralympics straight after. But I got the opportunity to get out there and challenge Mount Fuji. What was an amazing experience. We had a lot of rain before and after, but that one day that we went up, we were very lucky and had some sunshine.
Yeah, you didn't have a lot of time off. I probably had more time off than you because you were straight back into preparing for the Paralympics. But your venue producer, sport presentation, there's sport presentation, which is, for the people who don't understand sport presentation, the area I work in, we handle the stuff away from the athletes in terms of video content, music, announcing, all that sort of stuff ancillary around the sport to present the sport. And Sky's online here, and she's asking, we're going to see you in Paris.
I definitely want to join Chris. No, it will be amazing to see some familiar faces again. I definitely hope that opportunity will come. In what kind of role, I don't know. I do know, of course, in France they have a lot of great people there already. But yes, if I can bring the skills that I've gained here to Paris, then I definitely would like to. And it will be amazing to work with the same people again from the other functional areas like Sky. We did a bit of team bonding there up Mount Fuji. Yeah, it was good to work together with all the other functional areas, with ceremonies, with press, with sport presentation, doping control, all kind of, yes, other groups. We together made it all work.
Yeah, I'm going to go back a step and vote for 3 tickets to Paris for the 3 of us. We'll all go on the same plane. But yeah, working together with those functional areas, you've got to you only meet each other right, before the games start, and then you've got to make a relationship and you've got to start collaborating. You've all got to be pulling in the same direction, and that sometimes can be challenging. But I think you did a really good job. All reports coming back from the pistol range was it was a great venue.
Mm. Oh, thanks. Yeah, it was interesting because normally the other functional areas or even my own colleagues, they come to venue a lot earlier. This was all last moment. What was an interesting challenge because then you have to quickly find your way, find each other. And actually during the first finals, while Thomas Bach was there to visit us, I met a lot of people for the first time while the finals was on, and I was managing to make sure that everybody was on the right spot. So these are the background things that happen. A challenging environment, but yeah, definitely up to my alley. I love that. Throw me for the Lions and I'll just make it happen.
Yeah, well, you end up at Olympics, you end up with some VIPs, and Thomas Bach's one of the biggest of them. He actually gave you his own personal Olympic pin. I don't know if you've got it anywhere easy to hold it up. It's a pretty special memento. There's not many people in the world have one of those. The Thomas Bach Olympic pin.
Yes, it was nice to receive. No, it was great. I've met a couple of really nice people from the international federations. Of course, we walked them through the venue as well to show them around. Yeah, it was an amazing experience talking to a few of them, sharing some of the same interest in sport. So yeah, that was good. It's something I definitely is one of my takeaways.
Yeah, definitely. Chris, question for you. This one from a fellow shooter. What mental strategies did you employ to regroup to do the best you could after your pistol malfunction? Because that's always a pretty critical time, isn't it? When you have a mishap to get back on track again.
Yeah, that was a tough one because it did throw me. Basically, yeah. Totally threw me. My next series was way down. Started to bring it back, and then for the rapid fire stage, to me, I just thought, well, yeah, it's just a training session. I knew my rapid fire would be better. And yeah, just focused on the process and made the best out of a bad situation, basically.
And do you get the opportunity pre-competition or post-competition to speak to some of the international competitors that you've caught up with and known over the years?
That was, I did briefly speak to just a couple of people. But yeah, I think all the competitors were basically, yeah, we were all assuming, us Aussies were told to assume everyone you come in contact with had COVID. So basically, don't speak to them for too long. And I felt that all the other countries were doing the same thing. I did speak to 3 or 4 of the regulars just briefly, which was good. But yeah, it was much different in that aspect compared to what Rio was, or the last World Cup that I competed at.
So did you feel fairly safe with the PPE you were given? You were given those A&D P2 masks, which are like the gold standard in protection, the best you can get. Obviously, everyone in the Paralympic team were given a supply of those and sanitized and those sorts of things. Did you feel sort of like you were catered to feel safer?
Definitely. The sanitizing was just everywhere. Every lift, every room, every part of the venue you went to at the shooting range. And most people were using that on a regular basis. I know I was paranoid about masks, and there wasn't once that I forgot to put a mask on. I know there was a few countries there that were a little bit slap happy with that, but you basically just moved if we saw someone that was nearby without a mask, we instantly moved away. So, I felt that we were all doing the right thing. I know my teammates and I at the shooting range, we were always conscious of doing the right thing. So I did feel safe.
But Maartje, compliance, especially by the Japanese, to wear a mask. I mean, and I spent 50 days in Tokyo, as you spent a little bit more than that. And when you go walking out of your hotel, as soon as you leave the room, you've got a mask on you, and you've got it on so you go back to your hotel room, and everybody wears a mask. So maybe some of those international people out of some other countries, you ever have to chat to anyone and just politely remind them to put a mask on?
Well, we were constantly, of course, aware of what was happening around the venue, making sure that everybody was compliant. And there are countries that are not so used to it, or they're in their country, they don't have those strict rules. So we were constantly dealing with those cases to make sure that they did follow the rules for as far as we could. And also, of course, the Delta variation came in. So we were daily checking what needed to be done, adjusting schedule, adjusting programs, adjusting regulations, rooms to make sure that they were all safe in safe spots. We had people that were actually one-on-one checking certain people without anybody else knowing to make sure that everything went smooth. Yes, so the athletes were just there to do their thing while we were making sure that they were all safe and in a good environment.
Yeah, so for everyone watching, as you'd expect, getting into a venue is like going through an airport. You've got to go through a security check and metal detector. But prior to that process in Tokyo, they had a temperature check and a hand sanitize before you actually got into the venue. And obviously, and that was the point too, where you could deposit your PCR testing every day on the way into the venue. And I thought that system worked absolutely brilliantly. It was online on your phone. You had a daily health checker. So in my case, at my hotels, you've got your temperature checked going down to breakfast in the hotel and checked again going into the venue. You did a daily health report that you filled in every day and reminded you if you'd forgotten. And you just did your COVID test, which is, takes a couple of minutes each day just to submit your saliva test, and off you go. And then you log on and you get your certificates and you get the results within anywhere from 4 to about 24 hours. And so, you're good to continue.
And we were lucky. We had a lot of, in Japan, we had a lot of space. So in the venue itself, it was a huge area. We had a lot of lounge areas, so we were able to spread the people around to give them enough space in those lounge areas and outside as well. Especially during Paralympics, because we were on the same venue. Olympics had shotgun as well, and Paralympics didn't. So we had some extra lounges where we could put equipment, where we could, make sure that the para athletes were able to even enjoy more space.
For both of you here, I don't know how much Japanese food you got in the village. Chris, favourite Japanese meal?
We didn't have any actually. Australia were basically catered for ourselves, but I know there was a bit of sushi and whatnot, but from there I stuck to the Aussie meals, what I knew. So can't answer that one.
Maartje, your favourite Japanese meal?
Definitely the fresh fish. The fish is so good.
Tell me it was the venue lunches and dinners, which were
no, don't tell me. Don't talk about those. Actually, we were lucky that we had so much food supply. That was really good. But yes, I was happy to have my breakfast in the hotel. The people that were around me know how much I eat. And but the fish in Tokyo, that was amazing. I'll miss that definitely.
Yeah, we had one lunch, went to the fish market in downtown Tokyo, just on the edge of the harbour, and paid a fortune for sushi, but it was sensational. It was unbelievably good, and it was worth every cent we paid for it. Way more than you ever pay in Australia, but it was worth it. And a good ramen. I had a very nice little ramen cafe just across from my hotel, and I got to admit it, I just had to go back there over and over again because the ramen was so good.
I was lucky if I could get some dinner on time because of the lockdown in the evening. The time that I arrived back in the hotel in the evening was the time that they would close. So yeah, running around to get some food. But yeah, it was good challenges.
Yeah, that was probably the key restriction. I know, you know, I don't want to keep going on about COVID, but Australia's been in pretty heavy lockdown. Japan was a state of emergency. You just had to wear a mask going out. Most things were open, but restaurants closed by 8 o'clock, which made it difficult if you had a venue finishing late, trying to get out, as you said, trying to get some food. And they just did, no one served alcohol, which is fine. No big issue for anyone there. And but when you could get a meal, so much good food, so cheap and everywhere. Absolutely loved it. Absolutely loved it. So what do you take away from this, Chris? What's a highlight for you out of your second Paralympic experience? Obviously, you're a lot more used to the process. You've been there and done it before. What's your highlight?
Yeah, getting there was you know, something that I'll always remember and be grateful for. Yeah, that experience of going to Rio, mentally I felt better. Yeah, wasn't as nervous, which was a good thing. And yeah, as I said before, the Japanese people and the volunteers, yeah, will always stay in my memory for that one. And the excellent job that they did to even put the games on. Yeah, I think everyone, well, I know I and a few others thought it wouldn't be possible through 2020, and were up until probably March this year. We were still expecting it to be cancelled. So, yeah, for it to even go ahead so safely, I think those sorts of things will basically go down in history, I think, as, yeah, being an amazing effort by everyone.
Maartje, highlight, you're working in the finals hall quite often, as you said, while competition's going on. You try to organise and run things, but you get caught up in the excitement of the finals when you get those competitors on the line and they're all going for a medal. They're all absolutely pushing themselves to the edge of their capabilities.
It was, yeah, it's different when you're standing there and organising, paying attention to every detail around you to make sure nobody is entering that field of play that shouldn't be there. So that's the full concentration at that stage, making sure that all the functional areas can do their job. So even while trying to watch what was happening on the field, like score-wise, it's almost impossible to follow it. But yes, later on with the Paralympics, I had more opportunity to do that because everything was running so smoothly, that I did got that opportunity. And it's amazing then to see and feel the experience the athletes are going through. That is definitely exciting to see how they have been putting all their energy in all those years to get there to that 1 second that they actually do that last shot and win that medal. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's a very unique experience. I mean, Chris is out there on the field of play, and people like you and I on the side of the field of play marveling at what they do. It's just such a special place to be. And I know there's probably plenty of people tuning in that might have been to Olympic Games that understand how special it is to be right on the edge of the field of play, watching athletes perform at their best.
And it's not only athletes. I've seen all the people in the background performing on their best. So, and that makes it really interesting. Of course, athletes, that's what it is about, but also seeing the excitement of the team putting this all together and celebrating after the first finals, how it was successful and how we did the job. After each games, the excitement, like celebrating that we all together, athletes, coaches, but functional areas, everybody together made it happen. And that's in every detail. That's even a volunteer that's just sitting outside guarding who can go in or not. The people that are looking after the athlete lounges to make sure that they're clean enough. Just all those little details, and everybody with such a big smile on their face. Yeah, that was amazing.
Yeah, it was certainly a very unique Olympics in many, many regards due to the current global situation, but still it didn't take away from the joy I think the world got. I think it was really important that Olympics and Paralympics, people got to forget about what was happening on the planet and sit down and just cheer and laugh and scream and yell for the teams and for the athletes.
Yeah, definitely united by emotion.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, I don't know if we're going to get any more questions here. If anyone wants to pop another question to our panel before we go. It's been wonderful talking to you guys, and thanks for coming along and taking some of my time away from sitting in the quarantine hotel, counting down my 14 days. It's somewhat challenging. I'm on day 9, so I'm actually going okay.
Before we go, Mike, can I just give a shout out to a few people, you know, that have helped me on the way, and you know, all the site users at the Belmont complex, and especially Bisque and you know, all the guys up there that yeah, just do an amazing job, yeah, and help me so much along the way with their support. Yeah, thanks so much.
Yeah, we lost your video for some reason, but that's okay. We still know you're there. So yeah, no, a lot of people went into preparing athletes to get them to the games as well. So full shout out and full marks to everyone in the background who's helped get the athletes to the games, because that's a really important part of it. So I've got another one. Oh, Chris, any technical training tips or things you might have picked up in your time in Tokyo that you'll implement into your shooting going forward?
Technical tips, yeah, make sure your equipment is fully serviced and functioning. Once you master that, yeah, try and do the technical stuff with your head, I think. So yeah, but that's one lesson I learnt was I've never had such an issue with my pistol. It did have a few funny characteristics, but I amplified them by 1,000,000 times, and yeah, it cost me this time. So that's a huge learning for me.
Yeah, check the equipment over and over again. Questions are coming in now. How are we keeping ourselves entertained in quarantine hotel? Well, we might just do this every night. What do you reckon? A lot of TV.
No, I need to go fishing. So as soon as I'm home, yeah, it's down to the tackle shop and the fuel shop, and I'm off fishing. That's the first thing I want to do. Yeah.
Maartje, you're catching up a bit of work and a bit of sleep, because you didn't have a whole lot of sleep for
I haven't had a lot, no.
period.
I have 3 months of sleep to catch up on, and yes, and of course the reports that I'm still writing for the international committee for the next games, so that they can bring our experience further. Yeah.
Yeah, one here. What are you most looking forward to doing when you get home? Well, we know Chris is going fishing, so if you can't find
Eddie
Chris,
is waiting for me.
me.
Stradbroke Island, definitely. Some
Stradbroke Island, catch up with family, catch up with friends.
yes.
Enjoy some fresh air. Like that's the one thing I'm missing, is a bit of nature here in quarantine hotel.
I've been walking every day to venue 45 minutes each way. Yes, I'm definitely missing the exercise and the fresh air.
Yeah, well, I bought a push bike. I went to the second-hand bike shop and I bought a push bike, and I reckon I rode 300 to 400 kilometers around Tokyo City. I just went everywhere on my bike and took it back a couple of days before I was finished. And as the guy said, he'd buy it back for half price, which he did. That was fantastic. It was great. Great mode of transport, even when it was raining.
Cheap transport.
Yeah, it was good. It was good.
Yeah.
There was a couple of hills, Chris, a couple of quite steep bridges going up past the Paralympic village there. One bridge going over the river there, which is like my heartbreak hill every morning as I was trying to pedal up that, and everyone else is on those battery assisted bikes and they're barely pedaling and they just go flying past you, and you're going, oh, it's tough this morning, trying to warm up and get going on the bike.
They might have thought you were an athlete in training, Mike.
Oh yeah, well, like Tour de France, look out, I'm coming for it. Not on my bike.
I could have used your bike in the venue.
Yeah,
we were running marathons there because of the venue was so big. We had 3 field of play, so I had to run from one to the other.
Yeah, the bike was good. The bike was great. I think we might wrap it up there. I think that's good. We've had a few great questions from people, and I want to thank Chris again, and congratulations on your second Paralympics, and he's hoping for number 3 in Paris in 2024. It's only 3 years away.
Yeah, that's going to come very quick. Next year is a big year for us, so yeah, I think as soon as that first competition kicks off next year, yeah, we'll put our running shoes on, and yeah, it will be a short journey to the next one, I'm sure.
Yeah, Maartje, I know you'll be keen to go to Paris as I am. So, as I said, we've got 3 tickets booked, and I've had a couple of people here that said they're happy to carry our bags for us. So we're good to go.
Yes, I look forward to that. But first back to Kira, Belmont Shooting Complex. See you going for a shoot with Chris again.
Yeah.
It will be nice trying my air pistol again.
Yeah, well, best of luck, and yeah, and good shooting for both of you. And we'll see you guys on the range very, very soon. And thanks to everyone for joining us here on our very special range report, the Tokyo Experience. And we'll see you again very, very soon.